and welcome back to another new edition of Windows on Current Affairs. And today we talk about the political participation of women. And when we talk about the political participation of women, we can never ignore the new session for this Parliament 2021. We're going to be talking about how women made it in a very little time through 2 sessions to be able to take the front lines when it comes to political participation, when it comes to women parliamentarians, when it comes to women who are representing us as women in the streets in Egypt, talking on our behalf, representing our issues, fighting our fights, and a lot more. Today we're going to be talking about all these things in the session of the Parliament for 2021. We're going also to talk about what is expected from the women parliamentarians in this session. What are we women expecting from the women parliamentarians in 2021? Have the issues and the causes changed from the first session to the second session? What are the new challenges? And many, many questions that are awaiting our prominent guest who is with us here in the studio. And she, in her own right, also is a prominent woman in her circle. She is Dr. Nevine Labib, and she is chairwoman of Computer Science and Information System Department, Sadat Academy for Management Sciences. Good evening, Dr. Nevine.
Good evening, dear.
Let's first talk about how women have come. In 1956, only 2 women, to our knowledge, came to the parliament. Can you imagine this? Today, the quota is totally, nobody's talking about the quota even. It is totally eliminated a long time ago. Of course, according to the directives of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he said, let's no more talk about the quota. Let everyone be assessed according to his own efforts, which means there is complete gender equality. Yes. Let's talk about how women have come all that long time.
Okay, so as you just mentioned, that this started in 1956 with only 2 women being in the parliament.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. If we could be taking, are we going to take a quick break? I totally forgot. So we need to take a quick break to just warm it up. Okay. And then we come back. We're going to go to a short break. And we're going to be taking our first question with Dr. Nevine Labib in a moment, so stay with us. Welcome back, and we're still talking about the political participation of women. With us is the prominent guest, Dr. Nevine Labib. She is chairwoman of Computer Science and Information System Department at the Sadat Academy for Management Sciences. We were talking about how women have come since 1956. That's a long time. What have changed?
Yeah, actually, it's a very long time, but we're proud to say that we were the first country in the Arab world to allow women to run for elections. So we started with only 2 women, and nowadays we have a huge number of powerful and professional and competent women in the parliament in 2021. So this is a success story for us in Egypt.
Of course.
We're talking about women empowerment. We're talking about professional women kind of, working hand in hand with men in order to make our country better. That's a promising future for our country.
We started off by only 2 women, and then came the quota. I mean, there were ups and downs just like any other country. You can imagine other countries now are still applying the quota. I mean, some countries that have been economically developed and everything, but still they are applying the quota. Some countries have issues with the color of women. Some countries have issues with the religion of women. I mean, there are lots of issues that are involved when it comes to women who are at the front line of politics. But in Egypt, thanks to God, we have come a long way. I mean, to be able to reach the year 2021, and we're not even talking about the exact number of women in any decision-making position. I mean, as ministers, we're outweighing.
Yes, we have many ministers.
Right. And also in parliament, it's very, very, it's a pride to Egypt, and particularly this session. The women who nominated themselves and have claimed victory and overweighed the victory of that men have taken. I mean, the positions and the identity of the women who are parliamentarians right now inside the parliament is amazing. We're going to be talking about that in detail, but let's talk about how women have learned their lessons over the years when they just set their feet inside the parliament. Only 2 women. Today, I don't have an exact number for this session, but
it's around 164, I think, in this session.
Or so.
Yes.
Or so.
Yes.
And you have it in mind also that the one who chaired the session, I mean the speaker for the parliament, because I mean the first session was
the inauguration session,
Mrs. Farida al-Shubayshi. Of course, she is a media figure and also a writer and an intellectual. Such a figure, and the whole world watching. I mean, this first session for the parliament, after 2 revolutions and after a lot of incidents that the whole world have been taking, and see that scene taken all over the media outlets, it seems that Egypt have come a long way, and there is a lot of pride that we feel inside us as women.
Yes.
How do you elaborate to that?
Okay, as you just mentioned, the inauguration session was chaired by a woman, a very powerful woman, helped with another woman, a young one. That's the youngest in the parliament as well. So we have actually 2 out of 3. We had 2 women out of the 3 who were sharing the session. So that was, you know, a pride for us, for all of us. As you know, that our president, Fattah al-Sisi, is the one behind all of this. He's trying to empower women, and that's very important. Working on gender equality, achieving the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, is a long way to go in order to achieve Egypt 2030. So let's not only talk about the parliament. The parliament is just a subset, as we say in IT. So that's a subset of the whole set that's talking about our country. We need to work on Egypt 2030. In order to do so, you need to work on women empowerment and on gender equality. And having powerful and competent women in the parliament will achieve this. Okay, so that was a way to do it. That's all. And we're very proud, you know, having many powerful women, whether in education field and the medical field, and so on.
Right. When we talk about women empowerment, there are signals for how have we come applying, I mean, our plans for women empowerment and women enforcement, like, for example, the parliament, like the cabinet, like other decision-making, like, for example, the courts, and many other decision-making posts. So where do you see the challenges that are awaiting women in that particular scene, 2021?
Actually, we need to work on raising the awareness of women. They need to know their rights, because sometimes they do not know their rights, and that's very important for them in order to be better. So I think that's one of the agenda of one of the youngest, actually the youngest representative. She will be working on this. It's raising the awareness of women in Egypt to make them better, to, like for example, starting to document whether they got harassed or they had any problem like this. That was not the case before. But nowadays they know that they have the right to document it. They have the right to say that they do not accept many things. Okay. For example, if you talk about Upper Egypt, We still have kind of an unemployment problem there for women, because there they prefer men. So we also need to work on this. Okay, that's in our society. Raising the awareness of women to know their rights, and raising the awareness of society to know the rights of women. Okay, that's two parts.
Mentioning Upper Egypt, some of the most prominent women parliamentarians who come with, I mean, great sense of awareness when it comes to their cultural backgrounds are from Upper Egypt, like Dr. Amna Nusayr, for example.
Yes.
She's a professor at Al-Azhar University, and she has great plans for women, and also she has a great history and everything, and she comes from El-Minya. And another parliamentarian also who comes from Upper Egypt. And when you go to see how the parties, the political parties in Egypt are taking their activities in society, I mean in civil work, you see that there are many women from Upper Egypt taking that stance to set awareness to the community. But still, like you said, there are issues and challenges in the streets, like harassment, how to behave when you are harassed, like the social affairs, for example. I mean, all these issues. Still, do you think that these things, there are laws that are legislated, but they are not enforced?
Yes.
Or do you need an amendment to the laws?
Both. We need amendments, and we need to reinforce the laws. And this will not come unless the women in the parliament will work very hard for it. You know, it's very important also to take the perspective of women, because when you talk about laws, it's not only from men perception. You have to take the two perceptions, okay? So I think that we'll have very soon some amendments that will make things better for our society and for us as women. Again, we're talking about the image of women in Egypt. Yes, it became much better with our president, because they're, as you just mentioned, they're everywhere. Whether you talk about the cabinet or the parliament or any field, you will find many successful women. That was not the case. We were not really allowed to be sharing many enterprises or ministers, or, you know, as you know, it was not the case. Now it's much better. It's going to be better and better with the parliament. At least we hope so.
Of course, but let us also talk about the issues and the subjects and the plans that are awaiting the women parliamentarian for this session. Just normally speaking, as if you ask any woman in the street, they would, you know, what would you expect from women parliamentarian this year? They would start outnumbering the issues or their concerns for the requests for a better future and a better life.
Better laws. Better work opportunities. Okay, so we should work on training women to make them find better jobs, especially like for example in Upper Egypt. We need to provide them with more training, more work, more business, more everything. I think we will be focusing on Upper Egypt. We need more laws in the social affairs, as you just mentioned, and we need to change the perception of our society in order to be able to enforce the laws that are already there.
Right. Like you kindly mentioned, that some places in Upper Egypt, in the streets, I mean, and when there are sectors in society where the cultural background or there is illiteracy or things like that, you could see that their idea of harassment is in spite of the fact that there are laws that are enforced and everything and that legislated, but still they have their own martial laws when it comes to the harassment, when it comes to certain issues, when it comes to, I mean, personal issues for women and stuff like this, when it comes even to inheritance. They do not allow the exact law. In some part and areas when there's, little awareness. And so, of course, the government is working very hard on it.
The government is working very hard, but we need the society to understand these points. So, for example, in the case of harassment, you know, sometimes they do not really want to talk about it because they think that they will jeopardize their reputation and the reputation of their families.
Exactly.
Okay, and that's a point that we need to work on. They need to know their rights. If they got harassed, that they should report it, or else this will continue. No, that's a main problem for us as women in Egypt. So working on it, not only with amendments in the law, but also with enforcement in the society, with letting the society take it from another point of view, that this is a victim and you should really support her, okay, not accuse her, that she's always the reason.
Or shut her up.
Yes, exactly. So as you just mentioned, it's not only laws, because for law enforcement you need to explain to society, different levels, that this is not acceptable. Okay, or else you will have the law and we still do not report, women will never report the harassment cases.
Exactly. And there are other issues also when it comes to social development. But where do you see the role of NGOs and the role of civil society? Do you see it as important, still on equal importance with the governmental institutions like the parliament, like the cabinet, like the decision-making positions? Do you see women have a great role to play when it comes to civil society?
Yes, definitely. Because you cannot leave everything for the government to do. You've got to do your role as well. So nowadays, I guess with many NGOs, without stating any names, that they're working on entrepreneurship, they're working on women empowerment, they're working on empowering the single parents. That's a problem.
Single mothers.
Single mothers, yes. That's a problem for many families. Okay, so I see that NGOs now, they have a good role. They have a better role, again. And they work hand in hand with the governmental entities. And
we have the Supreme Council for Women and Child also,
yes,
who's doing it at its utmost. But also when we talk about women empowerment and enforcement, we cannot detach children. I mean, women and child, they are dispatched. Definitely. They are part and parcel of each other. But sometimes, I mean, some people are in full recognition of that particular notion, which is if you empower a woman, you are empowering a whole society, and also you are empowering the new generations. How do you, as someone who is, attaining a leading position, one of the best universities, and you are also, supervising and attaining a leading role when it comes to one of the best sciences, computer science, to men and students who are males and females and everything, in your position, in your shoes, how do you elaborate two issues like that, like empowering women and children as one issue, as one, plan or cause?
Okay. As you just said, when you empower women, you have a better society. You empower the society. Because women and children are just one set. Okay, so you need to educate the woman in order to let her educate her children. You need to raise her awareness in order to have better children. Again, for example, you just mentioned the IT field. We had this problem of not having many women.
This was going to be my next question.
Okay.
That's good that you hit it.
Yes, because we had the problem, in society they thought that women are not for IT because men will be better. Okay. So whether in mathematics or in IT or nowadays in artificial intelligence and robotics, whereas it's just the opposite. Okay, our number is increasing in this field. And we have many pioneers, we have many competent professors. I'm talking about female professors. So even in the IT field, we had this problem. Thank God that with gender equality, nowadays it's getting better, even in IT fields.
Exactly, because this is going to lead us, you raised a very important point, which is some positions or some jobs, or there is vacancy, but they do not accept women because, computer science or IT is only for women, for men.
Yes.
Because it needs a male to be able to plan. Well, it's totally the opposite. I try not to be biased, but at the same time, there are some jobs like in the army, for example, in the Interior Ministry. Recently, they have introduced...
Recently, they have women.
They have women,
yes,
and they have shown great
yes,
progress. And also in some...
and they're promoting women.
They are promoting, of course, in high ranks, but also in some, professions that would be totally unfair. Not only, I'm talking about worldwide, not in Egypt. because in Egypt we have eliminated the gender inequality. But let us talk about the medicine, I mean medical circle or the medicine circle. There are some specialities in medicine or in medical proficiencies that would only require men. They only accept men. They only encourage men.
They only encourage men. That's the point.
Why?
They see that these domains are only for men, not for women. It's not suitable for a woman.
But are you with this?
No, I'm against this. I'm with the performance indicators. After all, I'm a professor, so I see it from an objective point of view. Okay, so there are some criteria. If you fulfill the criteria and the qualifications, then you go ahead and take the job. But they do not encourage the woman. So the woman herself thinks that she's not up to the standard to be able to join this profession. That's the point. That's why I started by telling you that we should raise the awareness of women. And sometimes some of women do not trust other women in another field, and they prefer to deal with men. So again, we're talking about raising awareness.
Again, you raised a very important point, which is some women are biased themselves to males. I mean, they live in a male society. They come from a community that is thinking by a male culture. Women,
yes,
I mean females who attain that particular awareness. How do you justify that, and why?
They were raised in a male environment,
a male
culture,
society.
Yes, a male society. So they think that that's the best way to do it, and they educate their children again with these ideas. So that's why you have the society going on again with the same ideas. Because when you go on and see their mothers are convinced that some jobs are not for women. So what do you expect?
Right.
You end up having the same, it's a circle.
Right. Some jobs are not for women, while the most difficult jobs in life, like giving birth, being in labor, or struggling to be a single mother to provide for your sons or for your siblings and your daughters and everything. I mean, fighting in a male society or facing harassment in your jobs, not given the same chances like a man, because very few men are being harassed in some places, while you have to be at the top of front of the line, but you have also to fight harassment. I mean, everywhere I'm not talking about Egypt, I'm talking about the whole world. So this is a very tough life that even men cannot even stand one day taking it.
Yes, you're right. But talking about worldwide is different, because in Egypt it is found out and proved that we're in a very good position regarding gender equality. You don't have inequality. For example, if you're accepted, if you're doing your job, you get the same salary like the men. In some European cultures and European countries, it's not the same. They do not accept it. They still have some inequalities there. They're working on it nowadays. But in Egypt, we never had this. I mean, if they take you, if you're already hired and you start working, you take the same salary as your male counterpart.
Not according to your experience or qualifications.
No, I mean, it's not based on gender.
It's not based.
Yes.
But here, do you think
whereas
it's based?
in some countries, it is based on gender.
Of course.
In Egypt, it is not based on gender.
It's not based.
No.
And
but they do it in another way. They do not encourage you to apply for the job, or else when you apply for the job, they do not hire you.
True.
Okay.
But also talking about the best evidence for that there is no gender inequality in Egypt is that the choice of the president when it comes to ministries, attaining female ministers, when it comes to even the choice in itself is excellent. And also when attaining women parliamentarians in the last session, 2020, 2019, 2020, and 2021 in this one. Definitely the president is delivering a message to the Egyptian women and to the world. What is that message?
That he's supporting women. Okay, he's always supporting women. He's always talking about women empowerment. And even when he appointed some members, he appointed very good women that could really represent us there.
Very qualified. And
Yes,
from all domains.
qualified and competent from various domains. Okay, and that was very nice. So he, you know, he's working on the image of women in Egypt. And I guess we're pioneers in this, especially in the Arab world.
How far in other fields do you see that the Egyptian leadership have empowered women and forced women and pushed women to the front lines?
In Egypt, or you're talking about worldwide?
No, I mean, no, in Egypt.
In Egypt, when you appoint very competent professors, for example, as ministers, when you appoint many parliamentarians, members, they're all very professional women, then you see that you take the lead. Whether the lead for a ministry or the lead in the parliament, in a certain field or a certain committee, when you share kind of departments there, then you're taking the lead. You'll be working on both sides, whether in the governmental entities, helping for execution, or in the parliament, helping in the amendments of the current laws.
Right. Or in the Senate also, because there are two,
Yes.
I mean, House of Representatives like the Senate, I mean, supervising the laws, and council, I mean, the councilship, of course, in its own right. But let's also talk about what do you expect as a woman, after all, from a woman parliamentarian, to be having what in mind, and what should be her priorities representing you?
Working on better laws. I think we have to, you know, revisit the actual laws in order to make them, you know, go with 2021. We're talking about 2021.
Do you think we should attain a full consideration of all the laws, or certain laws like the social affairs, for example, or?
I think all of the laws, especially that you're working on achieving Egypt 2030. Okay, so usually when we study any of the pillars, we find that one of the challenges is the current laws. It needs assessment, it needs to be revisited, or else it will remain as a challenge and you will not be able to achieve Egypt 2030.
Especially that there are some of the main SDGs, 17 goals of the SDGs, I mean, is something that is related to women and children, to attaining a better society, to, I mean, something that, things that are focused on society should be based and founded by women.
Exactly. When you talk about poverty, when you talk about gender equality, about education, about the healthcare field, you know, these are the 17 goals mentioned by the United Nations in 2015. So, and they are linked to, or linked with Egypt 2030. And they're all talking about women. If you think about it, for example, for gender equality, for dealing with poverty, making a better future for the children, talking about the youth, about unemployment. All of these goals are linked to the pillars of Egypt 2030. And I think that women have a great role in achieving these goals.
Exactly. Also, when we talk about the challenges, the upcoming challenges, not because of the society and not because of gender inequality or anything, or poverty, it's because of the momentum, the contemporary situation, the pandemics and the climate change and all the bumps that the whole world, the globe is going through. What challenges do you see that is confronting women parliamentarians?
I don't think that this will be related to women. Okay, it's confronting everybody. If you talk about the coronavirus, for example, about the climate changes, about different types of wars that we're encountering these days, about, for example, including artificial intelligence and digital transformation in all of the areas in the government. So it's not really a gender issue. It's more like a society issue. Okay.
Do you think that women parliamentarians should be coming with working mainly and profoundly on plans that are targeting the hygiene and the health insurance of for single mothers, for women in society, the child and women empowerment in the sense of health and education, in relation to how do they react to the changes with the pandemic and the new waves? Do you think they should be coming up with laws like that? Or
They're already working on such laws and already investigating many of the laws and many of the problems. So you have, for example, the youth, all of the problems encountered by youth in Egypt.
Exactly.
Okay, the Upper Egypt issues, the unemployment issues, the laws that talk about the divorce, for example. They're working on all of them. And we've seen really that women are not there only as a number, but they have an influence, they have an impact, a very good impact in the parliament.
They have a good impact in the parliament. If I could ask you a final question, what would you have your dream image of an upcoming 2030 when it comes to women issues and women empowerment enforcement? How do you imagine the new Egypt in 2030? As one of the leading women in your field and as one of the very prominent women in Egyptian society, how do you expect Egypt to be in 2030, the upcoming Egypt?
I expect that we'll be able to implement the intelligent systems everywhere, in all fields, because I see it that this is a great solution for many problems, whether in the healthcare field, helping the diagnosis and helping patients, whether in the education field, having better education in our society. These are the main fields for me. So I think that applying artificial intelligence in all of these fields will lead to a better Egypt. That's how I see Egypt in 2030.
Hopefully, inshallah, and more. This is going to be coming over 2030. Thank you so much. That was Dr. Nevine Labib, and she is chairwoman of Computer Science and Information System Department, Sadat Academy for Management Scientists. And today we talked about the political participation when it comes to women, and especially inside the parliament and the new session. Would like to thank you, and I guess this is where we end this edition of Women of this program. Thank you so much for joining us in Windows for Current Affairs, and until we see you again next week, that's a goodbye.